freaking first cut. Golly.
Well, welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your recap episode for this week's BMW Championship. And joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme is here. Greg, what's up?
What a tournament. A second, it feels like every week we've had a playoff. How many is it? It's unbelievable. Four in a row.
4 in a row.
Playoffs?
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 There it is. 4 in a row.
I love it. I love that.
Mark
Happy to be here.
Mark Immelman is here. Mark, that is 4 playoffs in a row. We got a playoff inside our playoffs, and one of the playoffs was on a Monday after we didn't even play on Sunday. It has been a wacky month of golf.
Hey, did I ever tell you guys how much I hate playoffs? But I love playoffs when I'm on my couch. They are good fun. And I gotta be honest with you, I was watching. It was fun. Our announce crew had a text chain going, and people are like, "We'll see you tomorrow morning." And then someone texted a picture of how long the commute is from Caves Valley to BWI Airport. And they're like, "No chance you're making the evening flights." And so it was fun from that point of view to be able to see one now from the couch. It was lots of fun.
Just before we jump into the playoff, the winner, the runner-up, Greg, 27 under par is what it took to get you into that playoff. If you were 26, or in the case of Sung Jae In, 23 under, in the case of Rory Mcilroy, who goes out and fires 22 under par, you come up short. This was an event that you needed to be making birdies in bunches throughout the entirety of 72 holes.
Yes. And if you look at the number of birdies that Patrick Cantlay made, I don't think there's a lot of cases. I'd love to know if there's a stat on this. He made 31 birdies and an eagle. 31 birdies and an eagle. That is really, really impressive. Only 2 bogeys on the week. And so,
are you talking about Bryson?
No, that's
are you talking about Cantlay. Sorry. Yes. Sorry. I misheard you. Yes.
Because Bryson had like 6 eagles.
He had like 4 eagles. Yeah, I was going to say he made more than that.
I got Bryson right over here. Let's see what I don't know how many birdies he made, but you don't see 31 birdies made very often. And I don't care what the course setup is. There were a lot of scoring holes. And for instance, if you do look at Bryson, I don't know if you guys will find this to be as interesting as I do. Bryson made 27 birdies, 4 eagles. He also made he made more bogey. Well, 1 bogey, and I think he made a double as well. But anyway, beside the point. I'm looking at the wrong column. Excuse me. He made 6 bogeys and 1 double. So a little bit of a different way for him. Cantlay was much more steady. But when I looked at Bryson scoring, he played hole number 1, number 5, 11, those 3 short par 4s, and the par 5s, the 4 par 5s in 23 under par. And this is the kind of thing that Tiger Woods used to do, where you take advantage of the gettable holes. But it highlights the 2 areas of Bryson's game that excelled this week, which was, despite what happened at the end, driving and putting. Those were his areas of expertise. And that allows you to take advantage of holes like this. So I think the course setup proved to be perfect for him. And it wasn't because it was long, and it wasn't because it was wide. It was because there were all these scoring opportunities where great par 5 scorers are going to excel. And I found that to be really interesting. But yeah, you had to make a lot of birdies. And I don't care what the course setup is, you're going to have to play really well in multiple areas in order to accomplish that. And that's what these players did. They were head and shoulders above the rest. It was really fun to watch.
A quick glance through my database reveals 2 other instances in the last 4 years where someone made 31 birdies in a week. I could give you a million guesses at these. You'd never get them. This is a very strange list here. So 31 birdies this year at the Tournament of Champions from Joaquin Niemann, who lost in a playoff to Harris English, and 31 birdies at the American Express last year from Andrew Landry, of all people. Andrew Landry makes 31 en route to his victory. Michael Kim made 30 at the John Deere in 2018, as did Matthew Wolff in 2020 at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. So Mark, it's got to be such a different mindset, right? I mean, even from there's the chasers mentality that we talk about all the time. There's the guys in the lead. You can't play defense when you're in the lead on a course that is just handing it over on a constant basis. This is a true mental test as well.
Yeah, it really was. And I believe it was you and I that had talked earlier this week where we listed back in 2019 when this thing was at Medina, when Cantlay shot 22 under and lost by 3.
Yes.
And at one stage, it was shaping up for him to shoot 27 under this week and then lose also in the same event twice within the space of 3 years. And I would have been like, that would have been one bitter pill to swallow. I mean, you could say to him all day long on the trip down to Atlanta, big guy, you played awesome, 27 under par and stuff. And he'd be like, this is twice I've gotten outgunned. And it's just sort of the nature of summertime golf on the tour, especially we've talked about it in the Chicagoland area, up there in Indiana, now Baltimore, anything in that sort of area where it's hot, there's storms, there's bent greens, and the golf courses are soft. And then you don't have much wind, and so it becomes a bit of target practice, really. But that said, if you look down the leaderboards, they went bananas near the top of the leaderboard, and the cut was pretty low, but you still had to play well to make your score. I mean, inside the top 25 was 14 under, which normally inside the top 25 on the PGA Tour, you're sort of in the 10, 12 under range, right? Now, I'm sure you got numbers that maybe might dispute that, but if you're shooting 12 under par on an ordinary week, you're inside the top 25, I would say. And so there you're just a couple lower, and you're tied for 22nd this week. So the guys who played well played awfully well, because there was enough in the golf course to penalize you and trip you up a little bit. I mean, you weren't going to hemorrhage yourself to death. It would be paper cuts if you were making mistakes. So my hat's off to everyone who shot, 20 under par or better. To Greg's point, that is a big ask to do 5 under or better every day, especially on a golf course like this, even though it was playing as benign as what it could.
Yeah, Justin Ray had a Hall of Fame day with everything that was going on at the BMW Championship. So here's a couple of nuggets from him. Nobody has ever finished 27 under par or lower in a 72-hole playoff, a 72-hole PGA Tour event, and not one. Bryson D Shambo just did that. The streak of 14 consecutive PGA Tour winners who trailed after 54 holes, that's over. That was the longest such streak in at least 30 years, probably longer than that. But before we even get to the playoff, Greg, this thing was over. It was over. Cantlay finds the water on 17. Bryson stays dry, and odds makers moved Bryson to minus 1,000, meaning you need to lay $1,000 to win 100. It was over. And then Cantlay makes a good bogey. Bryson makes an ugly one, right? He had some chipping issues this week, makes an ugly one, and now the door's open again.
Yeah. To highlight Bryson as good as he is and as admirable as his transformation performance this week, all of that is, the short game is the weakness for him. And it's a glaring weakness. And it's the thing that holds him back from being a really consistent world number one type player is his short game. And it was, I would say, in a strange way, exposed this week. I thought it was really interesting. I listened to your Monday episode, which I missed this week with Sia, and he was saying that he didn't think short game would be overly important this week. And he was right. He was right for the most part, but it always has a way of exposing you under pressure. The PGA Tour has a way of exposing a weakness under pressure. And in many instances, when Bryson missed a green, he was able to get a putter on it, which I found so unique. So interesting how often he was putting from, he's putting from the rough on multiple occasions on Sunday. And all of a sudden he gets one that he can't quite putt and it costs him. And Cantlay does what he does. All he had to do was get it on the green and it was going in. And all of a sudden he's right back in the they have the hole. Imagine if that was in the Ryder Cup. I know they're on the same, but imagine if you had that situation in a Ryder Cup, you would be stunned. Absolutely stunned. So I found it to be incredibly interesting. But I would say Bryson's weakness was exposed around the greens this week.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you, and I'm guessing, Greg, that you're talking about short game and the areas around the greens, because a lot of the greens, the way they were set up, it was like pitching from rough. So you were playing explosion shots. But because in a situation like this week where it's got a scoring fest and it's just a birdie bonanza, it turns into a putting contest. And that's what it was in the end. I think the numbers bear that out. So anytime you get to shooting 16, 17, 18, 19 or more, it's really, to me, more about the putter. And ordinarily the iron game is brought into play, but at this place you had to play from the fairway so you could get ball in hand and play a bit more offense. But yeah, around the greens, I think the short game skill perhaps was mitigated because there were fewer chipping areas.
We're going to get to those. Oops, sorry, Greg.
I hate to interrupt, but if you look at the leaderboard of strokes gained putting and you compare it to the leaderboard of the real tournament, it's so interesting. You got Cantlay, DeChambeau. Okay, they were 1 and 2. John Rahm, Sung J M, he was 3rd. Hudson Swafford, Tony Finau, he shot 63 today. Dustin Johnson, top 10. Sergio Garcia was in the mix. Abraham Answer, Rory McIlroy. That's your top 10 in strokes gained putting. Alex Noren was 11th, who was also in the mix. So, Mark, you're spot on. It was a putting contest.
Patrick Cantlay set the new record in the shot link era for most strokes gained with the putter over 4 rounds. He snapped the record. So Patrick Cantlay now on top of that leaderboard since we started measuring all of this. And it really showed itself on 18 in regulation in this playoff. I mean, even going into the final hole, Mark, the 72nd hole in regulation, Bryson was 1 up. And he makes par. Cantlay gets it, hits an approach to 21 feet 9 inches. And for him, that might as well have been 2 feet 9 inches. I mean, he was absolutely automatic with the flat stick. The numbers bear it out. Our eyeballs bear it out. The hole must have looked like a swimming pool to him. So
there are 2 observations I have with regard to the way he putted, not just today, but today. Yeah, actually, I'm going to call it today and the entire week, because he did putt fantastically well the entire week. But it's just different on a Sunday. You know, the hole does shrink in size a little bit, even though you're having your Steph Curry moment and you're holding it from all over the lot. But every putt he hit went in with speed. There were a couple there of those sort of downhill pass savers that he made on, I think it was certainly 17 for bogey, and then there was one, maybe a hole or 2 prior, that sort of just limped in the bottom edge. But anytime he had an uphill putt, that thing was rolling at the hole. So it spoke to me of someone just putting with a whole bunch of confidence. And he was like, I'm the underdog. I'm just going to let it go. Yeah, I'm going to swing free off the tee. And when I have a putt up the hill, I'm going to give it a chance because I know I'm holding out well. So that was number 1. And then number 2, I sort of giggled when I looked at Kyle and he brought out the Vince Carter gif. And then as soon as that happens, they're half in bogeys, I think it was, whatever the case might be. And Cantlay buries the birdie putt on 18 to force it into a playoff, because we know Yogi Berra, it's not over until it's over. And you know in golf, it's never over until the final putt's in the hole. Anything's likely to happen. I mean, how many times, to build on that a little bit, I think on the 4th playoff hole where Bryson eventually misses the fairway in the creek, people are like, oh, it's done now. And he makes a fantastic 4. So it's golf, you know this. You don't be calling golf on Thursday evening. You certainly don't be calling it with 9 holes to play. I mean, case in point, Jordan Spieth at the Masters. There are oodles of stories like this. Now, was everything trending in the direction of Bryson winning? Sure. But at the Masters a few years ago, Kenny Perry had a 2-stroke lead on 17 and ended up losing. Anything's possible. It happens very quickly, especially at that level where there's just one little error and there's like a herd of folks going to stampede over the top of you. Now, that wasn't the case now because it was just Bryson, but typically on the tour, one bogey later and you're getting skid marks on your back.
Mark, the thing I love that you mentioned about putting on Sunday and how it's different. It's one thing to go out on Thursday and Friday and set that kind of record and just be absolutely on fire with the putter. That happens from time to time. We've seen some crazy numbers on Thursdays and Fridays where guys are just holing everything. But it has a funny way. And the reason, Rick, that your model works as well as it does his guys don't do that as the weekend progresses. So now all of a sudden, when you look at a tournament on Friday night, you're looking for guys that are hitting it really well, because the putter is the pressure increases and putting becomes more difficult. But Patrick Cantlay had four. I mean, there were, I lost count, but there was a point where he had it was 4 must-make putts in 5 holes, and he made every single one of them. And the numbers bear that out. But at the same time, they don't. That doesn't happen. The numbers never say you're going to make all those must-makes. And it was incredible from a statistical standpoint. But the thing that putting really counts for is what happens in the moments, in the winning moments. And if he was 54th in strokes gained putting, he still did it in the moments, which is the most important thing. So I was literally blown away by what he did on the greens.
The playoff was a display. It was 6 holes, Mark. We played 18 4 times. We played 17 twice. It included a couple of lip outs from Bryson D Shambo that if they drop, he would have won. It included Bryson hitting a drive into the water, into the hazard, and still making par to extend. It involved, Bryson stuffing one close on 17 and Cantlay stuffing one closer. I mean, this just had a little bit of everything. Not like, I mean, the Harris English Kramer Hickok 8-hole playoff was just par city. This was seemingly full of drama.
I don't know. I was there for that Harris one, and he got it up and down out of a plug line, a bunker. There was a hole from 20 feet to extend. I mean, there was a lot going on there too. But you're right. This for Captain Stricker would be like, all right, these are 2 of my top dogs, and they are showing not just skill, but they're showing balls. They're showing moxie here under the highest of pressure, and they're prepared to stand up there and hit the shots. Because that tee shot up 18 doesn't look like the easiest shot in the world, even though the fairways are soft and receptive. And these guys were just bringing game. It was 2 guys at the height of their powers, doing what they do. And I thought awfully telling was, previous European Tour Ryder Cup captain, Thomas Bjorn, tweeting to say, I'm feverishly searching to see if Patrick Cantlay is Canadian, which tells me 2 things, right? Looks like Bjorn might be the next captain again. And he's like worried about Patrick Cantlay. And then it shows also that everyone's watching. And then my brother, who's the next President's Cup captain, is like, I'm doing the same thing, because here's 2 guys who aren't even in the competition who are looking at what this individual's able to do. Then you couple that with Bryson, who's like, when he's on, he's a match for any man. We know that they are just, when they get going, they've got every shot. They've got every decision, everything they've got. They were performing at the highest of their powers, and so it was fun to watch. It was awesome to be to be a fan at that stage and just kind of live vicariously through it. But it was awfully impressive, and I just tipped my cap to the both of them. It
took a birdie putt from Patrick Cantlay, who rolled it in from 17 feet 6 inches on the 6th playoff hole to get it done. Bryson DeChambeau missed his I think it was like 9-footer coming back down the hill there, Greg. And Patrick Cantlay wins the BMW Championship, his 5th victory of his PGA Tour victory of his career. Previously 2 Memorials, the Zozo Championship and the Shriners. And we were starting to get into this a little bit off mic here before we fired it up. There is one golfer on tour who has won 3 times in the super season. That golfer also has a win in the playoffs, and that golfer is also going to have a very good chance to win the FedEx Cup. Did Patrick Cantlay just become the front runner for the PGA Tour Player of the Year?
The most important thing to remember in this conversation, I'm so glad you brought it up, because I think Cantlay winning made this discussion so fascinating. So yes, 3 wins. One of them's in a playoff. One of them's an elevated event. One of them's
playoffs. Sorry, an actual playoff.
No, right.
The other one was in he beat more
FedEx Cup playoff.
Yes.
And I can't wait to find out how the players will rate this, because these are big wins against big time fields on big time courses. I mean, in a normal year, these are 3 really big check marks. The issue is one of them is the Memorial, where he beat Morikawa in a playoff, a major champion. But there was a guy leading through 54 holes who had to withdraw. He was leading by 6 right now. And that guy, in my opinion, is in the race. Because if you look at what Jon Rahm has done this year, he's won a major, and that's the only win he has officially. He has a WD, which I just described. He's leading by 6 in the Memorial and has to withdraw. So how do the players rate that in their vote? Do they take a win away from Cantlay and give one to Rahm? Because if you do that, then Rahm's your player of the year as it stands right now, if it ended today. Because he checks every box. He has the best scoring average on tour. He won a major championship that was probably the second most memorable of all the majors this year in dramatic fashion. He has the most top 10s of anyone on tour this year. He's the best player in the world. If you don't look at wins, he's your best player this year. He's your player of the year, but wins is the top priority. So if you do judge wins and you look at the official win list, you can't even get to Rahm. You can never get to Rahm because Morikawa, Bryson, and Cantlay, all 3 of those players are ahead of him. But will they take one away from Cantlay and give one to Rahm? And if they do that, then I think Rahm could win. If they don't, well, now I think it's really interesting because Bryson and Morikawa have a major. Cantlay doesn't. And so how will they rate that out? I think it's the most interesting player of the year race that I've ever seen. And I can't wait to see how the players vote.
If I might add to that, Rick, I think that right now Cantlay is the front runner for the award. If he happens to win the Tour Championship, it's done and dusted. There was a situation a couple of years ago where Brooks had won 2 majors and Rory had won, 3 events maybe, and was leading a few strokes gain metrics. And that
was 19.
Yeah,
Brooks had 1 major, but they both had 3 wins.
And Rory had every top 5 ever.
Right. And Brooks had 4 top 5s in majors, but he only won 1 that year.
And so Rory got the nod because the players went and did their research and they gave it to him because he was the player of the year. Now, yeah, you make a very strong argument for Rahm to be the player of the year just by the way he's played. But, I'm sure a lot of players feel aggrieved for him with the whole COVID debacle at the Memorial. But again, this is sort of what happens. Bryson, but for a lip out or 2 in the playoff, has another win on his resume, and he becomes the front runner because he's got a playoff event and another win. So I thought before the time, Morikawa had to be the front runner with a World Golf Championships event and a major in the Open. But after taking down Bryson, like he did in this event, this victory is going to turn heads. And this victory is one of those memorable wins. Like people, even though it's the Travelers with love from 2021, people will talk about Kramer Hickok and Harris English for the longest time because it was memorable. Now I sound like coach, okay? And this was just a memorable victory where he just hung around. He to me, Cantlay was like Rocky, when he was taking a pummeling from Apollo Creed or whoever it was, or Drago, whoever it was there, and he just stayed in there. He stayed in there. Yeah, everyone.
That's the whole bit of the whole thing. Everybody got him. Yeah,
bashed by Ivan Drago, but he just hangs in there, and he's like the American dream, and he comes back and wins. So that was what Cantlay showed today. So for me, I think in the locker room, if you had to poll folks now, he'd make a strong case, and if he wins next week, I think it's one-way traffic, honestly.
This probably shakes itself out next week because Cantlay is number 1 in the FedEx Cup standings. Bryson is 3. Rahm is 4. If any one of those guys wins it, they're probably just the player of the year. So this thing probably shakes itself out unless Tony Finau or Cam Smith.
I want Finau. give me a Finau Tour Championship or a Rory come from behind or a DJ. If one of those guys that's not in the conversation wins the FedEx Cup, I think it gets even more interesting, and the race is wide open. You add in Bryson. Is Bryson's fanfare gonna? What's the effect of that? Because Mark, you brought up 2019, and I think there was an element of popularity involved in that vote. It was the first time ever that the PGA Tour and the PGA of America in their Players of the Year, I believe I said that right, in their Players of the Year races had a different winner. And this year, I think you could see the same thing. just because it's so unknown right now if it doesn't shake itself out next week.
And if that happens, Greg, so it took however long the history was before we got two different winners, and now we've had two in a row. This would be three years in a row that the PGA Player of the Year and the PGA Tour Player of the Year would be different. So
who won PGA of America last year? It wasn't DJ?
I just looked this up the other day.
Hey, are you PGA members going to give it to Phil this year? Huh?
No, Mark. That's not a vote. We don't vote on. That's a point.
There's a point system. So last year was
of course we would if we had a vote.
Justin Thomas was the PGA Player of the Year. Dustin Johnson was the PGA Tour Player of the Year. Basically, now the PGA Tour Player of the Year is whoever wins the FedEx Cup. Is like how it's ending up shaking out. Let's talk about the runner-up. His name is Bryson D Shambo. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of him. He's kind of a big deal. He was I thought, Mark, I'm not sure I've seen him. Listen, Bryson's an intense guy. I'm not sure I've seen him as intense as that playoff. I mean, we got a club twirl. We got him staring holes through the golf. I mean, it was kind of a little bit of a different side of Bryson. He was locked in with the driver all week long outside of that one bad swing that he was able to make. I mean, he played beautifully all week long.
Yeah, before the final round, I channeled my inner Tony Romo or perhaps Kyle Porter, and I tweeted out a swing video I had of him from last Hilton Head when we came back from the COVID lockdown. And I was like, the golf I've been watching this week, he looks as well organized as I've ever seen him. The decision-making looks on point. He's missed on a few yardages, but that's a given because you could have gotten gusty winds between those tall trees there. But really, he looked like he was making smart decisions, playing the golf course right. Golf course was fitting him. He was putting well. And I was just like, even though Cantlay has just sort of been the guy who's hung around there, I thought Bryson was going to pull it off. And truth is, for the longest time, I thought he was going to pull it off, but he just couldn't shake Cantlay. And you're right, there was an intensity there. And to me, I became more of a fan because you saw a guy that was giving his absolute everything to win an event. And it spoke to me. I sort of always knew it, but now it just galvanized that belief that Bryson just loves golf. He loves his craft. He loves to win. He loves to compete, and he's going to do whatever it takes. And you saw that, to your point, just etched all over him from the swings he made, from the look in the eye, and he was all up for this stuff. And long may it continue because he showed championship stuff to me today, even though he didn't win. Bryson, the sideshow previously with skirting the media and, the Brooks thing and all that sort of stuff, I can go without that. But this was Bryson pure golf today. And Bryson pure golf he's a spectacle. We all know this. And the guy's got a heck of a lot of games. So, man, I was impressed. He really turned my head watching him play today.
6 bogeys and a double bogey over the course of the week, Greg. I believe you mentioned that earlier. Still gets to 27 under. Still not good enough to win. Falls in the playoff. But this was a lot of, to get to 27 under, he played so many holes. What did he play? Half his holes under par? I mean, it was incredible stuff.
Yeah, it really was. And the thing that's so it's hard to fathom with Bryson, and I think it's hard for us who talk about the game to wrap our heads around. And it's this Bryson DeChambeau model, and it always seems to change. Its effectiveness changes with his success. And after a week where he struggles, he's put on too much weight. There's too much speed. You can't control distances with this. The single length clubs, you can't operate around the greens. There are so many issues with his model, but it continues to work. And the questions for Bryson, the things that Bryson has to do in order to win are not that much different than a normal player, right? He just has a built-in strength, right? He's got, if you're into statistics, which we are, including Mark, he's got strokes gained built in with his off the tee game. And it gives him a huge advantage. But in order for him to win, he has to put it all together, just like anybody else, or at least a portion. He needs another area of strength. And we see that with his putting this week. And I believe on a course that has a little bit more penalty, a little more opportunity to get into trouble. He's got to be a little more accurate, which he's done. Or he's got to be a little bit better with his approach game, which he's done. At winged foot, he was very solid all the way through the bag. And his short game included was very solid. His putting was exceptional. When Bryson wins, his driver and putter are great. His approach play has been, but it also hasn't been. There are times where it has been. There are times where it hasn't been. And in a way, on a course like this, he can eliminate iron play. He's got 7 holes where you don't need to hit a traditional iron shot as your approach shot into a green. To approach a green in regulation, you don't need an iron or even a full wedge. You need a pitch shot, a putt, or a long iron for a second shot on a par 5, or a mid iron on a second shot on a par 5. And he takes advantage of those holes because he can drive it long and he can putt very, very well. And so the model seems to play out. I just love watching the conversation about it and how much it changes with his game. Whereas when somebody's a great putter and they have a bad putting day, we don't say they're broken. It's how polarizing this guy has become. He is front and center, and no matter what he does, he's a conversation, and what he does is also in question. I find it so interesting.
Rick, producer Jacob, ladies and gentlemen, I want to recognize the wise remarks that Greg has just made over there, and there was a lot that he covered. But I just want to put a bow on something here. You said it's not just the driver, and he's going to have to need, if he wants to win, something else to fire. And he rode a hot putter as well, and it was ostensibly enough, but for one guy, all right? But he's still, with those one-length clubs, going to need to iron out some of the issues. You saw how he was sort of dodging the lofted wedge around the green some, because it takes away 1 or 2 shots. But I'm with you, and it was so smart what you said there. Bryson is not about the driver, even though he's taking on the long driving contest now. To win on the tour, you have to be not complete, or to win consistently, you do. You've got to drive it well. Long is helpful, but you have to drive it well. You have to hit quality irons, control the distance. That's the big one, because then you improve proximity. Save around the greens when you're out of position and putt. And he was nearly complete this week, and but for lip out or 2, he might have had his 9th win on his resume.
He might have been 28 under, right?
Yeah.
The couple of there's so many great nuggets from this week. Greg, you'll find these interesting, I think. Not that you won't, Mark, but Bryson D Shambo, despite finishing second, scored more DraftKings points than Patrick Cantlay did because of all of those eagles and birdies, Greg. And the other one was he gained, to put the numbers behind what we saw, 8.03 strokes off the tee this week. That is the most of any player in any PGA Tour event in the last 3 seasons. So this was peak Bryson with the driver.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to imagine what, 4 seasons ago, what beat that, because that was a display. And the lines were so aggressive. And I'll make this quick, because I've been on my soapbox a lot tonight. But he had the little trouble that there was on this property is all to the right. The water all seemed to be on the right-hand side. And the holes that stick out to me was 11 and 18, and he played 18 a lot today. And he committed to his single shot shape, and he hit a draw, and he started it out over the water, and he turned it back into play. And that is exquisite control. And now it ended up getting him at the very end, which was unfortunate. And if he was a fader on that hole, it probably would have worked out a little better for him. But he's a drawer, and he stuck to it. And it worked a lot. It worked very often. And I found it really impressive. But it wasn't just the distance. It was also the accuracy he displayed this week as well.
I have the answer for you. The last man to gain more than 8.03 strokes in an event. Dustin Johnson did it at the 2018 Tournament of Champions at Kapalua, which, if you remember, was the year he almost made the ace on the par 4.
Yes.
That shot alone was worth about 1.87. So one drive, 1.87 got him to 8.9 for the week. That's the last time we saw anything like it. Kind of crazy. Gentlemen, the Tour Championship is set. And thanks to some great play, Rory Mcilroy moves up from 28th to 13th mark. So he is now at least within somewhat of striking distance. He's going to start, I think, 3 under. I'll have to check that. And then Sung Jae Im in a similar move from 25 to 12. So those two kind of move their way up, position themselves to at least give them a fighter's chance at East Lake. We got you on mute here.
Sorry, I'm muted. That's for my bad behavior. Yeah, I love Sung Jae Im typically, but I don't love him very much for that closing birdie. But we'll talk about that later. But Rory's been in the spot before. You know, when he chased down his second FedEx Cup victory, he was down the field some. I think he began 5 under, and JT was 10. And Rory opened up with a barnstormer and then just built on that and ended up winning the whole bang shoot. So it's possible. You know, the beauty about East Lake, and I'm jacked to call it for live. I really am. I'm going up there Tuesday and we'll catch up, you know, with the golfers. And then there's a celebrity 9-hole match Wednesday afternoon we're covering. It's the sort of golf course where it beats you up early. Then there's a little bit of a respite through the middle portion of the round. And then you've got to hang on for dear life through the latter portion of the round, holes 14, 15, 16-ish. And then 17, 18 give you chances. So if you get out to a fast start and you're a 3 under guy, like Rory, whoever, and you get to 5, and then you're on about the 6th or 7th hole with the par 5, and you make another, all of a sudden you're 6, and a leader makes a quick bogey, he's now 9, and then it's game on. So with the way the golf course shakes out, you can see a lot of changing very quickly because they're also playing in 2s, and so you get guys on the golf course fast. And then the things might tighten up. Then you go through that run of holes where it's like 10, 11, 12 are gettable. You can pick up 1 or 2 there. And then, you know, it could be close, you know, when the 3 unders are on 13 and the leaders are on like 5. Now, granted, they've got holes in front, but then when you look at the leaderboard and you see things are tightened up, the mindset changes. And you have that chaser's freedom we've talked about before. You know, I'll be honest with you. If I'm sitting at 10 under par, it's awesome. I've got a lead, Cantlay. But in the back of your mind, you're like, well, you make your first bogey and you're like, am I ruining this? Yes, this stuff goes through these guys' heads. And the first hole there is tough. The second hole is tough. The third hole's the doddle. It's a wedge. 4 is mean. 5 is tight. So the first few holes, you could have your wits about you and you'll be nervous even though you've got the lead. So this thing isn't done by any stretch of the imagination just yet. This week should prove that to us. What happened at the Northern Trust should prove that to us. For all intents and purposes, some of us were giving John Rahm the event on Thursday evening. Mm-hmm. And so there's a whole lot of golf to be played still. And both Im and both Rory coming in off really good performances, going to a place where they've played well. If I'm Rory right now, I'm like, I'm going to feed them this whole I'm tired line one more time and go and dust them one time. I can see it coming.
Yeah, Rory did not fool us with that comment, by the way. We knew that was all cover. I misspoke here, Greg. So Rory's going to start at 2 under. He's going to start at 16. Sung Jae will start at 3 under par. He will start in the 12th position. And we kind of talked about this on our first look podcast. It's by design going to be difficult for some of these guys that far back to really make up ground. But if anybody has the firepower, DJ's at 3 under, Rory McIlroy's at 2 under. Those are the guys you're thinking about.
Right. And they really stand out. The issue for them is the guys they have to pass are also name brand players. But the thing that they have going in their favor is, one, they're on good form coming in, right? Both of these players played a really nice tournament today, and they've been building towards something. They've been trending in the right direction. So when you look at this scoreboard that we're going to have we have right now, we already have a scoreboard right now, but on Thursday morning, when we get there, these players haven't, I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but they haven't earned these scores on this course. So they haven't gone out, and it's not like Bryson and Cantlay coming into today where they have a great feel for the course, and all of a sudden they have a lead because they made more birdies and eagles and whatever than everybody else. They have done it throughout the course of the year. And for that reason, it's a little bit different. It's a completely different leader's mindset on this week. One, because it's on Thursday. And as we said on the first look, Rick, that's only happened. Patrick Cantlay is going to be the third player in the history of golf to step on the first tee on Thursday morning with a lead.
He's going to bed tonight with a lead. He's sleeping on the lead on a Sunday night.
It does not happen. So I think that adds a lot of pressure. And then when you have these other players who their form, like the thing Cantlay's earned is he just won. So he's coming in on great form. That's why he's earned the lead. But at the same time, Rahm and DJ, Rahm too, but Rory and DJ and other players are also trending in the right direction, and they're feeling great. And I find that to be a really interesting caveat to this, where these players come in, the form they come in on, and how that's different than the season as a whole that they've had. So I can't wait to see it.
Rick, I just want to add one more thing to that. If there is something that's going to throw a huge wrench in the works, it's this Hurricane Ida. And when it turns north out of Mississippi through Alabama, through North Georgia, because we're already getting some weather down here in Columbus, Georgia. And, the golf course, like I'm looking at the board, and if I'm DJ for argument's sake, I go, all right, I'm 3 under. If I get to 16, I'm in with a shot on Sunday afternoon, because then Cantlay's got to do 6 to get there. But if the golf course starts playing a little receptive, because if there's a bunch of rain, then that golf course is completely different. Then all of a sudden, to me, the leader has a little bit more advantage, because if you miss a few fairways, it's not as fiery where you're playing from this 2-inch Bermuda rough where the stuff just jets over the green and then you're making bogeys very quickly. So I'm keen to see how the weather plays out over the next couple of days, because I feel like Mother Nature might have a bigger say in this thing than usual at this Tour Championship.
Also thinking about everybody dealing with Hurricane Ida. So glad you brought that up, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll put a pin in that conversation and keep an eye on everything over the course of the next couple of days. But gentlemen, I do want to talk a little bit of Ryder Cup. Those standings have been finalized, and the standings for our one and done by no means finalized. So I want to get to that as well. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. The Ryder Cup points earning, it's over. Shut it down. It's done. We are in captain pick season. And here we go. Here are the locked in picks for the United States Ryder Cup team. Colin Morikawa, Dustin Johnson, Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, Justin Thomas, and Greg, thanks to that victory at the BMW Championship, Patrick Cantlay just edged out Tony Finau for the 6th and final automatic spot. I can't imagine that hinders Tony Finau's chances of making the team, but it is no longer a guarantee. Those 6 that I mentioned are.
Boy, well, a couple things happened. One element of this made Captain Stricker's job so much easier. And that is getting Cantlay on the team. Now, if you look at that bubble, okay, you got Cantlay, he's locked. Then you got Finau, who won last week and shot 63 today. Lock. You got Xander Schauffele, won the gold medal, and it makes he pairs in a way that only Mark could describe with Patrick Cantlay. So you got a lock of a pair in there. He's a lock. Jordan Spieth has been he's a couple wins away from being in this Player of the Year conversation. Only one other player has more top 10s than him on the year. He's a lock.
Yeah.
And Harris English is pretty close to a lock. I would say that I think he got 10.
He's a lock.
Your top 10 are locks, right?
You can
They're locks. And now the thing that has gotten difficult for Captain Stricker is Patrick Reed is in this week. So the easy out of, hey, Patrick, I haven't seen you play. Where's your form? I don't have a chance to see it. That got more difficult because I don't know if Reed's on that team. And we're gonna have to see an event from him. So I think that's a little bit harder. Berger, you look at that resume. I can't believe he's 12th. I'll leave it at that.
It's a deep team. It's a very deep U.S. based team right now. And Mark, I have a feeling you're going to have a connection if Patrick Reed's not on this team.
Why are people so anti-Patrick Reed? It blows my mind. So the guy's a blow up in France. He does a few stupid things. Yeah, haven't we all made mistakes? Now the court of public opinion is skewering him. I want to tell you, if I was Captain Stricker, I'd be like, put that guy in red, white, and blue stuff and let's go. Now, yes, there is going to be a little conversation because, look, if he was 12th, I think it would give Stricker a little more ammunition, perhaps, to maybe slide, I don't know, Scotty Scheffler in there, perhaps, because he played well in the match play, maybe blood someone for the future a little bit. Webb's a great match player, but he's sort of touch and go right now. But I don't think you can go beyond Scheffler, really. I think
I think Webb makes it really hard. I think it's hard to leave Webb off
because he's experienced. But here's the truth: you've got a bunch of young bucks up there in the front there. I think it's time for the United States because look, the task force and having this blend of old and young to me hasn't really worked very much. So let's put in guys like Scheffler. Burns is down the list. That's a stretch to go and find him. I've got to tell you, because I know a lot of folks are high on Sam Burns. But you've got to give these youngsters a chance and allow them, like a Spieth or someone, to take the leadership role in the player game, in the locker room afterwards. So, I think it's going to be hard for them to reach beyond Reed. I think if there is a head in the chopping block right now, it might be Berger. But I have said I think Tiger Woods might have a pretty big say in this thing. And I know in the past he's been a believer in Reed, but then of course you had the debacle down there in Australia. So I don't know. I'm keen to see what Captain Stricker does.
I don't know.
I must say this very fast because we talked about this and I said to you guys, he is way tougher than people think, Steve Stricker. And he put a capper on that Bryson Brooks showdown in the blink of an eye here recently. So he'll control this thing very well, I believe.
I just look at the resume of Daniel Berger, and I don't know how he's on the chopping block here. I mean, just if you compare this resume to Patrick Reed's, you would say, give me Berger. Okay, he's got a win this year. He's got a third. He's got 8 top 10s. He's in 22 events. He's only missed 2 cuts. He's got 13 top 25s. His recent form, he was 26 this week. He was 56 at the Northern Trust. I get that. But before that, tied 5th, tied 8th, tied 34th, tied 7th at the U.S. Open. I look at this guy who's 7th in scoring average on the PGA Tour, who's shown that he's made clutch putts time and time again, who is as steady and as consistent a player across the board as we have. I don't see a way where you leave Daniel Berger off, but I feel like he is the guy that people are leaving out.
You talked about making putts in the moment. Okay, I'm going to let you just argue those two out there for a minute. And let's not forget, Patrick Reed didn't play this week, and he's in the final 30. And you've heard all the players talk about what a big deal it is to make to the Tour Championship. His year hasn't hardly been that poor. He hasn't got the victories that perhaps he should, but he's also competed abroad a little bit too. So, I mean, these are decisions made way above me, and we can all opine. But I still believe, I'm a believer in what Patrick Reed does in match play when he's decked in his country's colors.
It's going to be fascinating because I every time I look at this, I think, well, how could you leave Webb off? How could you leave Patrick Reed off? How could you leave Berger off? Well, they're not all going to make it. Scotty Scheffler's there. I like Sam Burns more than most, but I wish I could find a way to get him on this team. It's not going to be easy. It's really not. This is a fascinating situation we've got going on. We'll find out. I believe this time next week after the Tour Championship. I don't know if they do it like Monday or I don't know when they do it.
Right. I'll
tell you this much, and I've said it before. Captains lobby for more captains picks, but in the end, because I've had to pick teams for coaches, I would rather be, because I was about to tweet it this morning and then I pulled the tweet where I was like, even though I thought Harrington's selections were going to be difficult for him, but then as I look at how the whole thing's shaking out, I had a text chain with Poulter. It sounds to me like he's on the team already. He hasn't admitted as much, but he said, I'm focusing on the Ryder Cup. And then Sergio plays well. So stuff is taking care of itself for Harrington. But with 6 picks, all Steve can get proved is wrong. Because if the guys he picks don't have a good record, then he's the guy who made the mistake. If you let people play their way in on merit, well, if you don't play well, it's kind of not on my decision. So it's always difficult.
It takes one element out, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is not an easy. It is not a job I envy, even though I like to sit here and tell you all the different ways that I would do it. I think we actually have. Oh, now I've got to riff for a second here because I've got a nice surprise coming, but it's not quite ready to show itself just yet. So I'm going to just riff here for a second. And Greg, there is one event left in this one and done coming up, my friends. And there is $3.6 million at the top. And it's close. It's wide open. How would you feel if you were able to win this one and done and be crowned the king of the super season?
Oh man. Well, it was really cool to win last year. I had to throw that in. I
that feels like a decade ago.
Want to win. It's a decade ago. And this one has been so tight all the way down the stretch. And it's hard to explain because it's so difficult. Like this has gone from I'm out, I can't win, I can't believe I lost, to I can win. I'm right there. I feel like I'm going to win again. I'm going to win this one pretty easily. And now here we are, final week, $800,000 behind. And I feel like I don't know what to do. I have the ammunition, I think. I don't know. There's more strategy than just who I pick. I don't like that we picked the same player this week. And I have some questions about how the picks are going to be made this week. And that's where I'd like to leave off.
All right. Well, let's put a pin in that because Kyle Porter is here. KP, first of all, welcome.
Yeah, having some technical difficulties. It's my first time to do a podcast, so thank you for having me today.
How spicy would you like us to be? You're usually the spicy one. How spicy would you like us to be?
In terms of like what question you want to go at?
Or just, what angle, what path we want to go down here with this conversation.
Just turn it all the way up. Let's go. It's the playoffs, baby.
Blazing Buffalo.
Yeah.
All right, turn it all the way up.
Give me the habanero.
Jacob, run it.
You guys really teed this up well.
Maybe.
How hard can I fade Patrick Cantlay?
Yeah.
So this is a field of 70. He was 64th from tee to green. That is
6.03 putting on the positive side. That's got to be his single best putting round. I'll look that up.
For sure. He made 9 putts from 9 feet or farther. I never know which one it is.
It's farther.
It's farther. That was Thursday's podcast. And also, it finally happened. You did the VinceCarter.gif and got VinceCarter.gif.
That was a tough week for me. Did producer Jacob not have the Bryson is unplayable clip from Tuesday?
I forgot about that one. Somebody messaged me and said, why is Bryson unplayable? I was like, he stinks. The guy stinks.
So 2 things. One, I'll stand by the Bryson is unplayable. He was unplayable. And just because he had a good week doesn't mean that at the time he wasn't unplayable. Same thing with Cantlay. Look, he had the best putting week of all time in the history of strokes gained. What are you supposed to do with that? Now, I will say the thing on Cantlay that I whiffed on that I think is the difficult part to determine with some of this stuff is, let's say, I don't know, Harry Higgs goes out and gains 6 strokes with his putter in round 1. That's a very different thing than Cantlay doing it, because with Cantlay, you could put together a path for him to kind of flip a switch, which he did from tee to green over the next 2 or 3 days, right? And with somebody like Higgs or a lesser player who's got some holes, it's easier to fade them. So I was partly wrong about Cantlay because I think I missed, and sometimes I think I do this where I miss on a guy that just doesn't have any holes in his game and is able to kind of flip a switch on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, which he ended up doing.
Yeah, it's like the putting that he accumulated in the first couple days. For Patrick Cantlay, it becomes a bonus.
Yep.
For Harry Higgs,
right.
It's not sustainable. It's like he gained him, he's never going to lose him. So that it's just it happened, and now he's your leader. I get where you're coming from there.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm trying to say, Greg.
All right. Sorry we had to do that to you right out of the
Oh no,
gate.
hey, I was gonna do it to myself if you guys didn't. So it's all good.
We're about to just do the one and done updates. So we've basically covered Cantlay and Bryson and the playoff, but I assume there is going to be an angle that you are going to present us that we have not talked about.
Well, so here are my two main takeaways from Sunday. I thought Bryson was impressive, and the reason that I thought that is because, I mean, I tweeted it out. The last two times that he's been in this position, first or second, going to the back nine on a Sunday, he shot a combined 85, 44 at Torrey, 41 at Memphis at TPC Southwind. And he kind of just put it on the line today. And I was, you could break it down a million different ways, but I came away pretty impressed by that. And the unintentional humor from him is just off the charts. The fist pump on 16, the tiger twirl from Harding Park on 18. I mean, just the stuff he does is just so goofy and weird, and it's hard to look away from. And then
hold on. It's so authentic though. That's him, right? I mean, that is for a guy who is, to me, often inauthentic and doesn't get it. I at least don't mind the club tour. That's him. That's Bryson being Bryson, and I don't actually mind that. I think it's I don't want to say the word cute. It's like that's him.
Endearing, yeah.
Endearing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rick, you know that golf course you played, what's it called, Bears Best?
Yeah.
In a way, that's what Bryson's like. He takes the hat from Hogan and
right.
And Payne Stewart.
And he stamps the wedges with like names of like whatever. It's like, oh yeah, he like pieces it all
There's
together.
like history coming out through it, things that he himself honors. It's
so like, yeah, it's so goofy. Like you just watch it and you're like, oh, it's kind of hard to watch at times. But I was impressed by him. I thought with Cantlay, Cantlay is, the word that I've used about him on this podcast and on Twitter today. He's just a nightmare. Like he just keeps coming at you. And I think he has this kind of intangible thing where he genuinely, I think, doesn't like guys. I'm pretty sure he doesn't like Bryson, or at least that's how it seemed today. And I think that he's got some like FU about him that not that many guys have. And that's not, that's impossible to quantify. You can't measure that by strokes gained or whatever. But I think it's freaking entertaining. And I think it is. I think it's fun to watch. I think it benefits him in so many different ways. I think it'll benefit him at the Ryder Cup when he's taking on, John Rahm on Sunday or whatever, however that plays out. So I love that he's got some of that kind of old school, like, I don't really like you, and I kind of want to kick your ass right now about him, because you don't see that in that many guys, at least not like genuinely. And I love that about him.
I think he gained 16.4 strokes in that category.
Almost as many, or just a little more than from the putter. And Mark, I want to get your thoughts on this, because I think Cantlay. Okay, so for the majority of Sunday, as we find out, it turned into match play when these two guys kind of got away.
Match play situation.
Match play situation, right? And then of course it is actually like a match play situation when they're in a playoff. And I find Cantlay most dangerous in that format because he's stoic. You're never going to get anything out of him. You're never going to ruffle him. Watching him play drives me crazy because he does the toe tap thing and he's slow, but then he's also just rolling everything in and he's hitting great shots. He would be, to take Kyle's word, nightmare would be the absolute right word when you have to play this guy.
Yeah, there's no doubt he would be a tough competitor, whether it's stroke play or match play. And today in the Bryson situation, I felt like just because of the styles of game that they played, with him hitting approach shots all of the time, that inadvertently kept pressure on Bryson too. So even though Bryson was on the front foot because he was sort of playing better and playing from closer, he was playing under more pressure all of the time. And then Cantlay was holding putts from outside of Bryson. And to Bryson's credit, there was once or twice after Cantlay had made something, Bryson made over the top of him. But to your point about just his demeanor and his manner, I mean, this is a guy who's been absolutely been forged in fire, really, of all the stuff that's he's gone through in his lifetime, with all the back issues and, of course, the death of his best friend and stuff. And so there's a lot going on inside there. And my experiences with him have been more than probably a couple of hands full. He never really says anything, but he looks like a real deep thinker. And you heard him say it afterwards in the commentary to Steve Sands. He was like, I was just trying to stay in my own world. And I wanted to say to people, he doesn't even have to try and stay in his own world. He does this naturally. He just got this ability to shut off and put the sort of Tiger Woods blinkers on. And he doesn't give a stuff that he stands there and needs his feet on the ground 15, 20 times before he hits a putt. He just does it. When I've seen a group of his on the clock, it doesn't look like it phases him whatsoever. And I don't know if, to Kyle's point, that's the fact that he doesn't really like people, because he seems well liked when he's on the practice facility before tournaments. But just when you put him in the starting blocks, he just gets singular, and that's what he does. And that's why he's going to be he's a tough player. He's going to be a tough match player in the Ryder Cup.
I was thinking Patrick Cantlay would be the worst player for Whoop to sponsor, because they'd throw his heart rate up there and it would just be 65, like no matter what the situation. It'd just be the 70. Worst sponsorship. Yeah.
I saw a tweet about that. I forget who, so forgive me, whoever it was, but they said Cantlay isn't on the Whoop thing because he's clinically dead.
That was Joel Beal, I think. From Golf Digest. That's right. That was pretty funny. And I think that's a little bit actually of what made Sunday so interesting, because you have such contrasting styles of not just play but reaction. Right, Bryson is always just gesticulating and emoting and just talking and just all the stuff he does, and Cantlay is just staring at you the whole time. And I don't know. Azinger kept talking it up on the broadcast about Bryson telling Cantlay to stop walking. And at first I was kind of like, okay, whatever. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, that probably did, like, there's probably something there. Like, that probably really did piss him off. So it was a ton of fun. It was maybe the most fun tournament we've had since, I don't know, outside of the majors. It might have been the most fun tournament of the year. It was unbelievable.
I don't think those guys looked at each other after that moment, so there might have been a little ice there. All right, gentlemen, one more thing to do, and it is the one and done. This was the penultimate event, so we've got one more crack at this. The coach, he went out with Corey Connors, earns $95,000, and cements his spot at $5.3 million in the basement. Jacob has started to separate. Producer Jacob, you went with Bryson DeChambeau, and while he did not get you the $1.7 million, I'm sure the $1 million consolation prize and the fact that you are now $1.5 million clear of the coach is gotta be great.
It feels really great. Last week Kyle called me out saying that where I was at was the Mendoza line, and I took that personally. So, I mean, we really just threw a dart here with Bryson. I want to say that I was some sort of genius and the algorithms were tipping me off to this, but he was literally just whenever you get to the draft and you're just looking for the best man on the board, like he was the best man on the board. That wasn't Xander Schauffele, because I was saving Xander for next week.
Oh,
That's my question. Who's everybody playing next week? You already know who you're playing.
Coach has an entire roster full. So Jacob, are you going with Xander?
I mean, it's either like Xander or I think Jason Kokrak. So I think I'm going to take.
Yeah, you got Patty Reed in the holster?
No, I burned him somewhere where he probably missed the cut and then finished T10 the next week, because that's how my entire season's been going.
Jacob used Patrick Reed at the Wells Fargo Championship. You got $250,000 out of him. That's not so bad. Let's see.
Not terrible.
Xander's going to start in 17th, and Kokrak's going to start in 18th. So have fun choosing that.
I won't.
Who are you playing, Rick?
Hold on. We're going to get there. Kyle, you're next. You're at $8.5 million thanks to the $95,000 that you got from Justin Thomas. Now, I believe you have already told us you are using a guy who, I'll tell you what, 4 days ago, you probably weren't as excited to use Dustin Johnson, but after what you saw this week, you hope he's trending in the right direction.
Well, I think I've used everybody in the wrong order, but I might get DJ right. I don't think I can't win enough money to win this thing though, right?
Well, 3.6 would give you 9. No, you can. Yeah, you can get to 12.1 is your absolute max. Now you would need Dustin Johnson to come back from, I don't know, 7 shots or something, like 6 or 7 shots.
Okay. I don't love that. I don't love DJ being down 5 to Rom and 6 or 7 to Cantlay and Fina. It's I don't. Whatever. I mean, he's won by 11 before, so JT couldn't putt again. That was frustrating. I had him this week at BMW. I wish I would have flipped JT and Rory. I guess played JT at Northern Trust where he finished top 5, and Rory this week at BMW where he finished top 5. But whatever. I'm probably gonna lose either way. DJ's got to win, and all your guys have to finish last.
That's going to be tough. But Rory McIlroy is who Mark picked and got 456,000 for it. I believe Sung Jae Mark buried a birdie putt on 18 that cost you $100,000 because it broke the tie, I believe, with Rory there at the end.
Yeah, that was sort of aggravating. But I realized that even if he didn't, I'd still be sitting, what's that, 700, no, more than that, 900,000 behind you, Rick. So it's all about next week. And I'm hoping my boy can figure his way around those greens. Normally he putts East Lake very well, Justin Thomas. So the ball striking seems there. He's comfortable there. He's had success there. So hopefully the discipline I've showed through the season works out.
So Jacob's probably going to go with Xander or Kokrak, probably Xander. Kyle's going with Dustin Johnson. Mark is going with Justin Thomas. Greg, you are a mere $700,000 behind, which let me lay this out, because 700,000 is going to basically be the 6th place payout. The win is going to be worth 3.6. Second is going to be worth 2.3 ish. Third is going to be worth 1.2 ish, 1.3. So there's a lot of money, and I believe you have a lot of ammo left.
The way I look at it, and I got to do a deeper dive into this, but right now I got 2 options, and I think you have one of them as well. Again, the deep dive will tell me a little more, but I'm looking at Rory and Bryson. And Bryson looks like the obvious choice right now, but if my calculations are correct and you have him, then I can't. Yeah. So that's basically where I'm going here. There's no payout system here. This is win or take all. So if Rick's going to go Bryson, then I got to go Rory.
Yeah, I'm going Bryson. He's all I have left. So I'm at 10.8 million. I have to play Bryson D Shambo. I missed out on the million. So it was between Harris English and Bryson over the final 2 weeks. I miss out on the 1 million this week, but get the fact that he's going to start 2nd or 3rd at the Tour Championship. So I'll take that. So I'm definitely taking Bryson. Now, Greg, you had brought up something about how we're going to put these picks in. Do we have to do that if I just told you who? What do you want to do here?
Well, I mean, I think if that really is all you have left, then I don't think we need to do that. I think it's already settled. You can ink me in that I'm playing. Well, let me do a deeper dive. Let's just say that.
You don't have to put one in.
It's Sunday night here.
You could put me in for Bryson.
There's already a leaderboard there's already a board out there. Like I know it's Sunday night, but we already got a leader. We already got a 2nd place.
Yeah, but I got to make sure I don't have like Tony Finau available. Something I just completely missed.
Should we Should we do our round 1 recap right now? Patrick Cantlay 2 shots clear of Tony Finau. Bryson 3 back.
Round 0 recap is what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
round
great.
0 rebat.
Hey, fade Cantlay. Fade Cantlay.
Yeah, it always works. All right, gentlemen, before we get out of here, anything else? Anything? Going on?
My John Rahm top 10 bet hit by 1 stroke.
Oh, did he actually do it? I was keeping an eye on that.
T9.
Wow.
He shot over par basically the last 2 days, compared to the field, but he hung on to T9 after, I don't know. He had a weird weekend. Didn't play that well.
Last 2 weekends.
Yeah. So, Monday, and then Saturday and Sunday were just, kind of bizarre.
Anything else from the BMW Championship. We're on to East Lake. Super season. 4 more rounds. Maybe a playoff. Who knows? All right, that'll do it. This has been your recap episode for this week's BMW Championship. Let me thank producer Jacob. He does all the hard work behind the scenes. That right there is Greg DuCharme. You can find him on Twitter at @TheRealGFD. That's Mark Immelman, who you can find at Mark_Immelman. And that's Kyle Porter, who you can find at Kyle Porter CBS. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.